Joining me now is author of international bestsellers, including The War on the West, The Madness of Crowds, and The Strange Death of Europe. Douglas Murray, let's start with the illiberal lunacy in Scotland with their new hate crime laws. We've got JK Rowling offering herself up as a human shield to any woman charged for a misgendering offence. She has posted consistently in breach of these laws, it seems, and yet authorities are refusing to charge her. She has also said, if they go after any woman for simply calling a man, I'll repeat that woman's words and they can charge us both at once. That's pretty brave if you ask me.
It's terrific. This is what leadership actually looks like, and you find it in surprising places. Sometimes I would never have thought 20 years ago that great leadership in our era would necessarily have been given by the author of the Harry Potter books, but J.K. Rowling has stepped up in a way that so few people have in our era. So many people just go along with whatever is demanded of them, say whatever they're told to say. And she has quite rightly, in my view, taken a stand on this particular issue, has said there is something wrong, actually wrong, about pretending that things are not as they are. They lead to terrible real-world consequences, and there's examples that have vindicated her on this. But most interesting is the fact that this overreach by the Scottish government, the Scottish executive, is really something to behold. The Scottish executive believe that they have the right not just to police what J.K. Rowling or you or I say in public, but also what we say in private, and indeed around the family dinner table. The legislation encourages children to inform on their parents. This is something that we saw in the Soviet Union, of course. It's been consistent in totalitarian systems across many, many years, but not in liberal democracies, not in countries that pride themselves on their liberalism and their democratic values. Hamza Yusuf and his administration in Edinburgh should be absolutely not just shamed, but thrown out of office for what they're trying to do. And I'm just thrilled that Scotland's most famous author is leading the way in calling them out.
And she's making a mockery of these laws very quickly because they won't charge someone with the resources to defend herself, someone who's got $1 billion in the bank and a profile, but the average mum in the suburbs who doesn't have that backing, they may go after. So thank God she's keeping an eye on any charges that may proceed. Now let's go to the BBC, and Michael Schellenberger reports that the head of the public broadcaster has vowed to pursue the truth with no agenda by reporting fearlessly and fairly. But as Schellenberger points out, that is simply untrue when it comes to so-called gender-affirming care, where inconvenient facts have been consistently suppressed. He makes an excellent point there, because it's not just how they report things, but what they choose to ignore. And there has been so much that has come out in that area where the BBC has just ignored inconvenient facts.
Yes, well, of course, there's precedent at the BBC on this. The BBC's own inquiry some years ago found that their reporting on immigration had been off for some years. They were completely correct on that. And Schellenberger is completely correct on this occasion. As you say, Rita, the issue with a broadcast like the BBC is not just what they say, but what they choose to report, what they choose to make into headline news. Maybe I've missed it. I don't follow the BBC that closely anymore. It's one way to live a happier life. But I don't think I've seen or heard of headline news on the BBC about what so-called gender-affirming care consists of. I don't think they've shown footage of flayed limbs and mutilated arms and much more. We just hear these cotton wool banalities like gender affirming care. And the fact they don't look into things like that tells us an awful lot. Just as for years the BBC would talk about the plight of migrants, always. Never the plight of people who lived in the areas that those people were coming into, who would undercut their labor, undercut their own employment, and bring all sorts of not particularly happy diversity into their neighborhood. It was never that. It was never that. And so, yes, Schellenberg is completely right. This is a problem of public broadcasters, unfortunately. They're very, very susceptible to groupthink, and they loathe outsider opinion.
Well, it's very true for our public broadcaster as well.